I saw an interesting tweet from Michael Malice. Man, we shot this guy out.
Who's Michael Malice?
We shot him out.
He's a comedian. He's a writer. Really funny guy.
But it's just really good. And
Michael Malice. Yeah.
It was an idea he tweeted out, and then I just elaborated upon that. By mere virtue of your existence, proves that victory is not only possible, but that it's already happened before.
Yeah, it seems like that. Oh,
and so that's something. And basing it off of what he was tweeting, and what I mean by that is, there's been so much evil in this world. The rise of communism, the dictators, the murderers, the Nazis, the fascists. And here we sit today doing a show about American values, freedom and liberty, which proves not only have we won in the past, but here we are able to continue this, which means victory is not only possible, but it already happened.
We constantly do things that are challenging and hard. Like I tweeted out, I think yesterday, if you only ever did what was easy for you, you would just laid there. You never would have you would have laid there until you died. Like, we're always struggling to learn how to do something new and to change our environment. That's ultimately what we're tools for.
I love this quote. It's like, of course the shortcut is hard. If it was easy, it would just be the way. You know what I mean? So it's like everything we're doing. If we are doing the easiest thing imaginable, it's not challenging. It's just the normal. But for all of us that are fighting for something, that believe in something, that are challenging something, of course it's hard. It has to be.
But definitely possible. That's the point.
I'm not saying impossible. I'm saying hard.
These things that seem insurmountable, I think it's because we're looking at big picture a lot of times, like CRT, and everyone's like, I don't know, where do you even begin? But when you break it down to like the local level, and then you see like teachers union or a group of teachers are revolting, or this guy's getting removed, this teacher's getting removed for...
Good thing to see that guy wearing the sickle, who's got the Antifa and the Black Lives Matter and all that communist stuff, who says he's got 180 days to turn the kids into revolutionaries, he's getting fired.
Yes.
The woman that said pledge allegiance to the queers, she's getting fired.
Pressure.
Okay?
That's an offensive statement.
It is a very offensive statement.
To everybody.
To everybody and anyone. And, you know, look, standing for the Pledge of Allegiance in school right now is not super cool, depending on where you live. My son told me a story about he's literally the only one in his class who stands every morning and recites the pledge.
Wow.
Everyone else just
I was the
sits
only
there.
kid not doing that when I was little.
Right? Because that was kind of the cool thing to do. But you know what? Now the rebellious thing to do is to stand up and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation divided.
Is it under God?
One nation divided.
one nation united under God. I can't remember.
Indivisible.
I'm kind of weirded out by the God thing in the...
It was added in the 50s.
It was added in the 50s, yeah.
The under God and on the Constitution, your rights are from God. I'm like, that's just...
Why are you weirded out by it? It's literally in the Declaration of Independence upon which this government was founded.
Because I think, well, we talked about this before. I wish you were here when we had the first time. That our rights are we just earned them through warfare. We took them by force.
No, they're given to you by God.
That's what some magic thing they wrote in there to be like, and if anyone ever messes with you, just say you can never. And it's like, no, this didn't exist before. You created it.
What do you mean?
This idea of American freedom.
We talked about this. You don't understand what right means. The government infringing upon your rights doesn't mean you don't have rights. It means the government is infringing upon them.
Yeah, I think the idea that you have a right to anything in this reality is absurd.
Are you born with the right to defend yourself?
I mean, I'm born with the ability. Technically, no, because you're a baby with no abilities. You just lay there.
That's an ability, but not a right.
I have no rights. As a small infant, you have no right.
Perceive yourself in the state of nature with no government around you. And there's people around you, and you're all around you. Would anybody look at you and say to you, sir, that you don't have the right to defend yourself?
Well, I mean, if I've done something wrong,
No, the answer is no.
I think in a society that word right might not even exist.
Don't even use the word society. Just imagine a bunch of dudes in anarchy.
Yeah, they would probably fight.
But would they look at you and be like, you have the right to defend yourself?
No, I don't think that word would even enter that lexicon into a mind of barbarians.
So, Ian, if you're standing in the middle of the woods and some guy runs up screaming with a pointy stick, would you just go, oh, well, guess I'll die?
I'm not saying because these things I'm not saying that they're not good things. These ideas are great.
All right, so
but the fact that they're given from God. Okay, what was your question again?
If you're standing in the middle of the woods and a guy's running at you screaming with a stick, would you go, I have no right to defend myself?
No, I would jujitsu his ass and put my knee on the back of his neck.
Whoa, you have no right to do that.
Hey, I get to answer your question however I want.
Good, you have a right to do that.
You have no right to do that.
No, neither of us have a right. We just did it.
You do have a right to do that. No one would
I have
fault
the ability. It's not a right. What is this right? What does it even mean? What do you mean?
Bro, you're making semantic arguments that have nothing to do with...
I'm being very literal. legal rights.
No, we're not talking about legal rights. We're talking about natural rights.
Natural rights,
Yes.
natural. Like in other countries, they aren't natural. That's the point.
Well, it's because they're also monotheistic. Some of them are pagan. Some of them are different.
But that doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means it's a different view of what is natural.
In order to live, you must defend yourself. If you can't live, then you don't exist. You have a right to defend yourself. That's the first, most fundamental right that you have.
A right is a legal, social, or ethical principle of freedom or entitlement.
Ethical.
Rights are fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. Rights are of essential importance in such disciplines as law and ethics, especially theories of justice and deontology.
They're different everywhere. Every country is different. Every ethical form
So we're
has a
back
different
to our
set of
original
rights.
discussion, which is that monotheistic gods gave us natural law and natural rights, which gave us the United States of America. That's why it's not universally applicable, because there's other countries around the world and other places, other people that don't have the same perception of God and don't have the same perception of light.
It's really simple. Again, Ian, you're confusing infringement with existence of rights.
You please clarify that, please.
You're arguing that because someone with power would suppress your rights don't exist. That's not true.
No.
If you're captured in war,
Yeah, okay.
you can physically defend yourself from your captors, even though they will beat you and try and stop you.
Yeah.
And they will tie your hands behind your back and continue beating you, and you can still resist.
Yeah.
You have a right.
No, you have the ability to do it. It doesn't give you the right. That doesn't exist in a POW camp.
Yes, it literally does.
There are no rights in a POW camp.
Yes, there
no,
are.
You're just there.
You
being
don't
beaten.
understand what a right is. You're confusing
If
infringement.
you're like, you're violating my human right, my basic human, they're like, what? Who is this? What is this thing? And they're beating you with a
So
cane.
again, you're talking about the infringement of rights
Of
versus
course,
the existence
but they
of
don't
rights.
understand that person doesn't
what?
it doesn't exist to them. So it's like for you to say, because I believe it is
Okay,
real for you too,
okay, so
even though
Ian,
you don't understand it.
Now, if you attack the soldier keeping you there, will he defend himself?
Likely.
But he has no right to do that.
No, but he has the ability to, and probably should, to
has-
preserve his own skin.
Of course, he has the right to defend himself.
He has the. I mean, okay, now we're just
You
talking
don't
about
know
rights
what
and
a right
abilities.
is.
I'm talking rights are legal things.
Ian, you do this all the time. You make semantic
you just
arguments.
said that rights are legal things.
No.
rights are
natural,
legal, social, or
rights.
ethical assumptions.
Natural
basically.
rights come from natural law, which comes from God.
Ian, you do this a lot when you lose an argument. You make a semantic change to the argument.
I don't think there's going to be a winner or loser to this. We're just talking about it.
But rights literally do exist. There's like the golden rule.
And
There's certain rules that transcend all
Yeah,
civilizations.
but that doesn't
like,
always. The golden rule only works in certain types
Like-
of civilizations.
like-
it doesn't work if everyone's cheating.
So there are bad people, there are good people, there are an infringement of rights, and rights exist regardless of whether someone tries to suppress them from you.
I don't agree with that. I think that rights only exist because we tell ourselves they exist.
So, Ian,
So
I
if
think
you're-
you actually have a point, but I wanted to read to you a little bit about natural law. Because natural law is an idea it's a theory in ethics and philosophy that says that human beings possess intrinsic values that govern our reasoning and behavior. And this is something that is understood to exist in almost every single human civilization. These are overarching ideas. This is like the understanding that murder is wrong. It's like the understanding that marriage is a societal good. Not true in every society, but commonly understood in most of them. So this ties directly into the idea of rights as being something understood, governed by natural law. So you should look at like natural rights as they grow out of natural law. It's something that is over most society, not strictly like we use in our Judeo-Christian society here. And
I think
that was what your main
Jack
argument
put it.
was.
I think Jack put it well about what you need to be able to do in order to survive and function, which is a natural right.
They've essentially codified that into a structure. A lot of kind of the 10 Commandments is what he was doing. Like these, if you follow these, you'll probably survive for a long time, and so will our species. And so then the Americans were like, okay, let's make a government out of that and tell everyone these are like uncorruptible parts of you. And that's, if we believe that, then they become it. But only because the government by gun force is commanding that is that able to exist.
If you're in the middle of the woods and you're buck naked, you can
Opposite.
speak freely, you can move freely, you can defend yourself.
No one can stop you.
Yeah, but there's no law though. There's no.
What does that do
there's
with
no
anything?
rights in the
Bro,
in
the
middle of
law
jungle.
is to restrict the government, not people. How many times do we have to say that?
You mean the Bill of Rights or the Constitution?
But all the law in America is to restrict, well, yes, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the idea of natural law, whatever. This is to restrict the government from infringing upon the rights that you have innately.
That's what they tell you. That's my argument is that I don't think people innately have any right to anything. we were fortunate to be born into a society where we
So
believe
you're
we
just
do.
a total will to power guy.
I mean,
That's
if
it.
we were thrown into the jungle alone, naked, what the hell? There is no natural right. It is.
What are you talking about? We just
survive.
Yeah, so you can defend yourself from predators. You can
Yeah,
say whatever
not because
you want.
I have a
you can
right to
move
it. It's because
freely.
what the hell? I'm doing it. Like,
in order to exist as a human being, you have to defend yourself.
yeah, that's for real.
So
yeah.
Ian,
That's what we're talking about. Bro.
if
we're
you
talking about
don't,
laws and
if
rights,
you
I'm
don't
talking-
think the right exists, that means you would just lay down whenever threatened.
No, the law, calling it a law and saying it's like
Who said law?
You just said if you don't think the law exists.
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
just, like,
If you don't think rights exist, then you would just lay down and die whenever you were attacked by a predator.
saying that defending yourself, the
I have
act of
no right
defending
to
yourself
challenge this
means that
chicken.
you enacted a right, I think is fallacy. Just because you defend yourself doesn't mean you're enacting any kind of human right.
Exerting.
Yeah,
That's
just
a
because
You're
big
literally
difference.
Just 'cause you're-
exercising your right when you defend yourself.
No, you're defending yourself. You're not. I mean, in the United States,
I don't
you
think
would
you
be
know that-
exercising your right.
Ian,
In a
you're-
country where
Ian.
you're not allowed to defend yourself, like North
Okay,
Korea.
we're done. We're done because you're just arguing semantics.
Well, we have yet to begin, Tim, because in
No,
North
you're-
Korea, you don't have the right to defend
Yes,
yourself
you
against the North
do.
Korean guy.
They just beat you and infringe on your
There's
right
no
to defend
rights there.
yourself.
They don't have rights. They don't have
Just-
human rights.
So this is what they're saying when they say that the rights are given by God. This means that the government should not ever infringe your right to defend yourself. Ever, ever, ever. This is what the founding fathers
the,
meant.
The Constitution says the government can't do that. But other governments do that.
Yeah.
But a human being in any circumstance when threatened has the right to defend itself, as does every other creature on the planet when threatened. Just because a bear can hold down the fox and the fox is struggling doesn't mean the fox doesn't have the right to defend itself.
It doesn't have the right. It
You don't
defends
know what
it-
the words
it
mean.
either-
Okay,
either-
let's just
Not
go to
capable.
Super Chats.
Yeah,
because
maybe I
Ian-
don't.
Because we defined it.
First time,
Fundamental-
long time listener, first time caller. Here's $10. Can I have your attention
Are you
now?
telling me God gave you the power?
Yes.
You're saying God
There-
gave you the power, Jack? Are you fucking
To
kidding
defend
me?
yourself?
Ian.
Yeah, you think God did that? Come
There
on.
are fundamental base truths that we understand very simply. And what I mean is, obviously, we can get into the nuance and complexities of how glass shatters. But typically, when you throw a rock at a window, it breaks. There's nuance there. I understand that. Typically, a bear, when hungry, will eat something to feed itself. There are basic things we understand to be true. There are rules as to how they define what life is, and there are basic functions as to how that life propagates. In fact, there are some plants that defend themselves. Because if you have no right to self-defense, meaning a fundamental entitlement to your ability to stay alive, then you would cease to exist because your lineage, your DNA would just collapse. Meaning everything that exists today exists because it had a right to survival.
No, that's not. We didn't have rights before. We invented them.
Yes, we did.
Things survived
That's
and
the whole-
propagated
no,
because
that's the whole
you're
point.
talking about like parameciums in the tide pool. They didn't have rights. They didn't have a basic paramecium rights. They just survived. The ones that ate the food survived, and the ones that didn't.
So the point is, arising from the fact that everything that survived fought for its survival, we recognize a fundamental, naturally occurring entitlement existing within life forms to try to stay alive. Right?
No, that's so circuitous. A natural
Because-
entitlement to try
because
to survive.
this is what you do,
What are you
Ian.
talking about? A
When-
natural
when-
entitlement to try to survive. No, you have a
Because you don't know what the words
You have
mean.
to try to survive.
Because
That's it. You're not entitled to it.
Good
You
to
just
see some things never change
Right?
around here.
Nothing's changed, Jack.
Ian, we're going to go to Super Chats.
Yes, we are.
But if you can't agree on a definition of a word...
That's the
even-
point. We can't agree on the definition. We got to agree on the
Because you're
definition
making
first.
it up, and I just read it to you.
Well, you just gave me like a long 3-part definition. Firstly,
Because
there's
you
probably
don't...
other.
Ian, if you're not smart enough to know words, and I can't even read you the definition, how do we have a conversation?
Look, everybody. Firstly, everybody can make mistakes. You made a mistake earlier when you said a word that wasn't the right word.
Sure.
And we haven't even yet to agree
let me,
on
let
what
me,
this
let me,
word
let me
means.
just...
So,
I'm going to end this conversation
Yeah.
very simply. Jack and I say, here's a right. You say rights don't exist. I say, okay, Ian, let's
No,
try and figure... Stop.
Okay.
Let's try and figure out what rights means. Here's the definition of a right. And you say, well, that's wrong, and I refuse to accept... Okay, you don't want to be wrong.
That's not what happened.
And you just told me the definition
no,
was
I
too
didn't
long.
say
and it
rights
said-
don't exist. I said that the idea that God gives you basic intrinsic rights is idiot. It's fantasy, and that's why people are erupting against it right now.
Because you don't know what the word means.
A right. It's a
A fundamental natural rights, a fundamental, naturally occurring entitlement intrinsic within life.
This is something you just created. This is the
I
definition.
literally just read it to you.
But you just said that it had to do with ethics and some. You said the
It
word
was-
ethics
it
in
said,
your definition.
It said rights exist very prominently within legal and ethical theories.
and another one, ethical,
And the
social,
point
and
is,
legal theories. I think.
This is
Let's
some
go
of
to
the
Super
best
Chats.
whiskey I have ever had
I'm
in
glad
my
you're
entire
rice
life.
whiskey.
Can I put this on the
Yeah.
camera? Are we allowed to do
we
that?
should.
Look at this. This
Ohishi
rice,
rice.
Ohishi rice whiskey.
Smooth.
This is some of the best stuff I've ever had. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.